I am Ruth McEwen, Advisory Council member serving on the Northwest Senior and Disability Services Advisory Councils. I want to welcome candidates, incumbents, and Advisory Council members to the 2024 Candidate Interview Forum. This program features candidates and incumbents from districts serving Clatsop, Marion, Polk, Tillamook, and Yamhill counties, and is sponsored by our Senior Advisory Council and our Disability Services Advisory Council. Northwest Senior and Disability Service is a local governmental organization that provides Medicaid, Oregon Project Independence, Older Americans Act, and grant-funded programs. The mission of the Northwest Senior and Disability Service is to promote dignity, independence, and health, honor choice, and empower people. The assistance and support we provide to consumers includes information, assistance, in-home and community-based services, financial and medical help, meal site and home-delivered meals, options counseling, adult protective services, Medicare counseling, and peer mentoring, money management, as well as health and wellness programs. Because of the number of state legislative districts that our service area covers, we have invited a large number of candidates to our candidate interviews. Each candidate has been given information on the format used in these interviews. Each candidate will be introduced by a member from the advisory councils, and then candidates will have the opportunity to answer questions which will be timed. We thank these candidates for their willingness to share their views about services for Oregon seniors and people with disability.
Hi, my name is Judy Richards. I am a member of the Disability Services Advisory Council at Northwest Senior and Disability Services. Today, I am interviewing incumbent Representative Kevin Mannix. He is a Republican candidate for Oregon House District 21. We'll be asking Representative Mannix questions related to seniors and people with disabilities. Welcome, and we're so glad to have you here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Today, the first question will be to tell us about the votes and legislation that you supported last session that directly benefited the seniors and people with disabilities.
When I take a look at this issue, I try to remember my constituents. I represent Kaiser and North Salem. And in North Salem, I have a lot of what I call real working Oregonians, people with jobs and trying to work, trying to take care of their families. And then some of those folks have retired and they live in the same community. Then when you look at Kaiser, there's a significant retirement community in Kaiser, but there also are folks transitioning towards retirement and a lot of young folks going to school and all of that. So I have a complex group of constituents, but a significant element of them are folks who are seniors. And then some folks also among my constituents have disabilities. So the work that I've done as a legislator is trying to be aware of this. And in my votes on funding agencies and operations, I try to remember that my vote helps move forward the funding that's necessary for programs to help folks with disabilities, as well as to help folks, somehow I'm misspeaking today, hope instead of help folks who are seniors. Now, when we look at this, I serve on the Transportation Committee. That's the big area that I serve on. And there I've worked on making sure that we've passed legislation that includes a consideration of pedestrian safety. When we're building all of these roads and improving them, that we have crosswalks, that we have signals. I pushed through legislation that allows for radar signals that show people what their speed is, so they'll slow down, and also they can be filmed if they haven't slowed down so that they can be held accountable. This is important for a lot of folks, but folks with disabilities and some seniors have to be concerned about whether they can get across the street safely. Now, that also applies to kids and everyone else, but as you get older and you get a little slower, it's a significant concern. Well, beyond that, I served on the Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety. And in that area, I found that we also needed to be sensitive to what we do in terms of programs. Yeah, we have the usual discussion of what I'll call the homeless as a general category. But within that, we have folks with disabilities and seniors who need better access to programs. And some of our seniors do have addiction issues. We need to make sure that we provide the services and treatment for them. At the same time, there are those who've come to Oregon because we had decriminalized street drugs and will want to take advantage of that law. Well, as of September 1, the legislation I supported said no, and we passed it. The governor signed it. We are recriminalizing street drugs, but as we hold people accountable through the criminal justice system, we're providing treatment. We need to be compassionate about it. We have addiction issues here. So we put together a package there, and that sort of parallels what we ought to be doing with all of our programs, sensitive to who is receiving our services. And as I deal with the various government agencies, I try to emphasize helping fund the programs that help everyone, but recognizing that folks with disabilities and seniors have some special needs that need to be addressed.
Thank you. How would you prioritize state funding, including the funding that is matched with federal funds, such as Medicaid, for services to an ever-expanding number of seniors and people with disabilities?
I think that we need to be very open to taking advantage of federal funding. It varies widely depending on the issue area. And I've mentioned to a lot of folks over time, I serve on the Transportation Committee, and the Federal Aviation Administration has tremendous matches for us to do things for airports and aviation. It's 90-10. That's incredible. Much more than we'll usually get elsewhere. But when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to human services, there are other federal programs, and Medicaid is one of them, where we need to take advantage of those federal matching funds, because what we're doing is we take our state funds and we've leveraged them with the federal funds so we can do more. So I'm very open to the leveraging opportunities to make use of federal funds.
Thank you. It is becoming increasingly challenging for seniors and people with disabilities to obtain housing due to the constant rising costs and insufficient supply of disability accessible housing. What will you do on a state level to prioritize affordable and accessible housing?
One of the things I've done is in the housing legislation, which we have passed and which I supported, I've made sure, working with the governor and our housing committee folks, that we have some proportionality of those funds made available for housing which is clearly accessible. And accessible housing means more than some limited benefits. It means housing where you can actually get in, and be able to make use of the housing. So as to new housing, we want to make sure that a good proportion of it is designed to be accessible. We also need to be open to converting older housing to make it more accessible, putting in ramps, putting in bars in the bathrooms, making sure that the shades are reachable, making sure the interior components are reachable for folks. In one case, folks with disabilities, in another case, folks who are senior who may not be able to quite be as active physically as they were in the past. So I have supported those programs. I'll continue to do that. And in the housing arena, I've also noticed that some of the modern designs for modern modular housing can include a certain percentage of units that are especially designed to be accessible in terms of all of their components, so that we make sure that we have, I'll call it some general housing, which folks generally can use, but within that package of housing, we have some units which are specifically designed to be accessible.
Thank you. What would you support on a state level to prioritize the access to healthy and nutritious food for seniors and people with disabilities?
I think it's important to customize our response to the needs of the people we're dealing with. In rural Oregon, for instance, it's harder and harder to reach folks because of the distances. In urban area, you can reach folks, but then do you have the facilities available to provide the food services? And that includes nutritious food services. I have supported the food programs in my community and statewide consistently, because I recognize providing nutritious, healthy food is more than just feeding folks. It's also improving their living environment. It's improving their capacity to be engaged in the community because their nutrition is being kept up. So it is always a good investment. So as we deal with a variety of programs, I want to make sure that the programs respond to the needs of the folks they're serving. I like the fact that we can have interaction with people who have a need for food. Now, you may have some food banks where folks can pick up large amounts of food. That's fine. Let's make sure that food's available. And I imagine there's a wide range of people that make use of that, including couples with kids, families, but there's also seniors who will come in. Let's make sure that the food packages available to them meet their nutrition needs, which do change as you get older. So I want us to make sure our programs are all customized to meet the needs of the people that we are helping at a given time.
Thank you. What would you do to address the behavioral health needs for older adults and people with disabilities?
I think this is an especially sensitive area because behavioral health can include, I'll call it some effects of age. It can also include mental health issues that may be for any range of people.
Mhm.
It can also include, sadly, some folks who've been affected by drugs and have addictions. And these are all needs that are out there. And we do have modern medicine, which is very helpful in addressing a variety of these needs. One is being able to identify the need. And in terms of the homeless projects, we need to be aware of folks who have addictions, getting them into treatment. We also have people who are homeless who may not have addictions, but have mental health issues. And we need to get them into mental health treatment, which is not sufficient right now. The standards for commitment into mental health, civil commitments for those who need help, need to be changed because they are barriers right now. If you want to get some programs for an elderly parent who is having some mental health issues, if they don't want to cooperate, there are challenges to being able to proceed. Now, there's a balance here. You want to respect individual freedom and rights, but we also want to help families deal with someone who has some loss of memory capacity, loss of cognitive capacity, so that they can be helped. So it's complex. I'm not on the behavioral health committee either, but as a legislator, I interact with the members of those committees, and I've been encouraging them to do more to make treatment programs more accessible. And this is an area where I think the state is seriously lacking.
Thank you. We've been visiting today with Representative Kevin Mannix, a Republican candidate for Oregon House, District 21. Thank you, Representative Mannix, for joining us today for this interview.
Well, thank you for carrying on this program. It's important for folks to get a one-on-one, so to speak, opportunity to check out candidates. And I look forward to hearing from folks who do want to contact me directly at my campaign office or on my Mannix for Oregon website.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank the candidates on behalf of the members of the Senior Advisory Council and Disability Service Advisory Council of Northwest Senior and Disability Services for attending our candidate interviews. We hope the information that has been provided will help you make informed choices when you vote. The opinions expressed here are not endorsed by Northwest Senior and Disability Services. For more information or to get connected to services provided by Northwest Senior and Disability Services, call 1-866-206-4799. The Advisory Councils for Northwest Senior and Disability Services would like to thank Capital Community Media for their production of the forum. Thank you for watching.